So you order something from Domino's, you get a receipt. That receipt is your promise. This means eventually you will get your pizza. When you use your fetch function to call an API, that data doesn't arrive instantly. It's delayed by internet speed, server lag, or maybe your device. So until that data actually arrives, JavaScript hands you a promise, and the status of the promise would be pending by default. If the data successfully arrives, the promise is fulfilled. If the network drops and it fails, the promise is rejected. Fetch here will return a promise and then start getting the metadata and headers. This then block here will receive that promise, and when fulfilled, this response object will have access to the metadata and headers. This in turn will return a new promise and then start downloading the body and convert it to a JS object that we can use. This then block here will receive the promise and wait for it to be fulfilled. When fulfilled, this data here will be an actual JavaScript object that we can use. If any error occurs in between these, this catch block will catch the error and log it here. After running this, we get loading data finished, and a JavaScript object. We can use async and await to achieve the same functionality. We get the same output. However, to catch any errors, we need to wrap this code in a try-catch block. If we have any kind of error, suppose we have a typo here in our fetch URL, fetch failed, error not found, error occurred during fetching. When we use await here like this in front of fetch, this returns a promise. When the promise is fulfilled, the res variable here will store the headers and metadata. Similarly, when we use await here in front of res.json, this will return a promise. And when the promise is resolved, this data will store the actual JavaScript object, and then our data is logged. Well, now when you use this inside a function, which most of the time you will have to do, you need to use the async keyword. This async keyword will tell JavaScript, be prepared to pause the execution of this function. You cannot use await here inside a function without using the async keyword. So this is very easy to read in place of then blocks that we were using before. So when we use multiple then blocks to handle promises, it can also be referred to as promise chaining. And async await is just syntactic sugar over promises. It doesn't replace the underlying promise architecture. It simply provides a more readable way to work with asynchronous code without needing .then or .catch.